Hello and welcome to another episode of Susfaction.
Yes, hello. Today is an Acela-centric episode,
Yes.
and I'm Kyle,
And I'm Acela,
and
we're your
hosts.
hosts.
So we have 2 updates.
Yeah, we have 2 updates.
All right. So I'll just go first real fast because it's not long. But I wanted to update on the Mackenzie Shirilla case of the crash from Netflix.
Right, because we covered that on our July Patreon.
Yes. Now it says, an Ohio woman who was found guilty of murder in a deadly 100-mile-per-hour crash that killed 2 people has filed her latest legal effort to overturn her conviction. Mackenzie Shirella, 21, filed a petition for a writ of habeas corpus, a legal request used to challenge unlawful imprisonment in the U.S. District Court of the Northern District of Ohio on Tuesday. The filing asks the judge to overturn her conviction based on several alleged constitutional right violations, including ineffective assistance of counsel and insufficient evidence. I'm not going to go on and keep going because I already know that Shirilla does not deserve an appeal, and she does not deserve for this case to be overturned.
She's appealing because they didn't talk about. I didn't know this. I saw the documentary and I thought everything from the documentary was stuff that was presented in the case initially.
Right.
Well, apparently not. So
No.
her POTS diagnosis wasn't something that was presented originally as in her defense.
Right.
So that's something that she's claiming ineffective counsel for because they did not use an actual medical diagnosis
Because
that
they didn't think of it yet.
Right. So they didn't use it in her defense.
Right.
And so that's why she's claiming that, and that's what the new attempt, I guess, is based on.
Yeah, and I didn't want to give her too much airtime today because I think I just don't like her. But anyways, that's the update on Mackenzie Shirilla, and that's thanks to Acela because I didn't even know that.
I get little updates. If it's something that we've looked up, then my phone's like, "Hey, you might want to know. There's an update on this," and I'm like, "Oh, cool. I don't have to go looking for it." So we have an update on Wendy Williams as well, because we covered Wendy. When did we cover Wendy?
She was our June Patreon.
Okay, so June Patreon, and then we just released it when I was down for surgery. So all of you may have already heard the Wendy Williams episode at this point. She had a lawsuit where she was accusing. No, she wasn't accusing A&E. Her guardian was accusing A&E of exploiting her because she didn't have the capacity to consent to being in a documentary. And A&E, I guess, ran with her consent even though she didn't have the capacity to consent. So that's what the lawsuit was over.
I see.
And the lawsuit, they went ahead and settled, and they're going to continue out of court with what's going on with that. But yeah, that's basically it, is that she wasn't supposed to be giving consent to anything because she's under this guardianship.
Right.
And Sabrina Morrissey is acting in her capacity as a temporary guardian, and she's the one that sought to block the documentary's release based on just the title. It was literally because of the title. They didn't like the title of the documentary. So they actually did release it, though, I think, and then they ended up having to pull it. So we'll see if they re-release.
What was the title?
Where in the world is Wendy Williams? Where is Wendy Williams?
They didn't like that. Well, I mean, we're all curious, so I don't see why that's a bad title. I would agree with it.
I guess it implies that, like, she's been
missing.
Yeah.
She has been. We don't know where she's been.
Yeah.
She's been, her fans want to know where she's at.
Exactly.
And if she's okay.
Exactly.
Just like Britney Spears.
No, I agree with you. But yeah, so that's what that lawsuit was about, and they settled that one. So they may re-release the docuseries. under a
If they
different
do,
title if
we
they
will have to cover that.
figure that out. So, all right. Today we're going to talk about food.
Ew. I'm just kidding.
No, but what I do have to talk about when I talk about food today for part 1, so my title is Nothing is Safe. And for part 1, we're covering major foodborne illness outbreaks. And I felt like this is on the top of everybody's mind right now, especially if you live in the United States.
What I think is crazy is that we had this whole thing happen, all like the lettuce and stuff and blah 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 blah
Yeah.
and the parasite. And then our Taco Bell on Tiffin is gone.
Well, they were slated to redo the building before this
I
happened.
just think it's so funny that
I
it was
know,
gone
because
like the next day.
yes, it gives people a lot to joke about in our town, because Taco Bell is the center of is the epicenter of this foodborne outbreak that we are currently going through in our great nation.
Yeah. And in our town, we just had a Taco Bell get demolished.
Yes. So everyone on socials is saying, "Wow, they really needed to get rid of it." Like
Yeah,
the lettuce, the outbreak. We did actually. Our town does have one documented case of the
really?
Spora. Yeah, Silospora. So, it's not too funny, but we
No.
actually do have a case here.
Yeah.
All right. So first, I want to start by going through a quick timeline of some major outbreaks that we've experienced here in the U.S. The first being a 1993 E. coli burger sold at Jack in the Box in Washington State. Then in 2006, we had E. coli baby spinach. Do you remember that one? I kind of do.
No.
No? Okay. In 2006, we also had a peanut butter salmonella outbreak. In 2010, Iowa Farms, we had salmonella eggs being shipped around. You remember that one?
Yeah.
That one's more recent. And then a smaller E. coli outbreak in 2021, and now the lettuce of 2026.
The lettuce of 2026.
Yes, the lettuce of 2026. All right. So in 1993, Washington State Pediatric ICU, intensive care unit, 4 children died from eating E. coli contaminated beef. The burgers were sold at Jack in the Box restaurants, and they were undercooked, is what they're saying. Was what the original argument was, is that the Jack in the Box undercooked the burgers, and that's why children were able to get infected or infected with the E. coli.
Yeah.
They got the E. coli poisoning from that. Now, prior to this, visual only carcass inspection was all that they did. There was no microbial standards
Oh, really?
for pathogens. And so it allowed contaminated beef to be sold because if the carcass looked fine, smelled fine, then it must have been fine.
That's effing crazy to me.
I know, to think that that's not that long ago, 1993.
No.
So that's all the inspectors were doing. And the industry kind of based itself off of a self-governance where the burden was solely on the consumer. So that's why the burden became on Jack in the Box. They undercooked the burger, they got the people sick, it's Jack in the Box's fault, and the USDA was trying to wash their hands of the whole situation.
Right.
Now, changes that were made because of all of this in 1994, so just a year later, they had made E. coli presence illegal in beef. So now they cannot sell beef that has E. coli presence, meaning now that they are shifting the accountability to the producer, and they have to test all beef before it goes out. So no E. coli can be present. If it's present, that's bad beef. They got to throw it away.
Yes.
They cannot sell E. coli tainted meat in the U.S. any longer since
Good.
1994.
Should have never been able to.
Right. So remember that, though, because when we'll get to it, but remember that. It's illegal to sell E. coli tainted beef.
Okay.
All right. And they also set temperature regulations. This instance made them set temperature regulations, so beef cooked to be sold has to have an internal temperature of 165 degrees. Or no, 160 degrees, which doesn't make a whole lot of sense because E. coli dies at 165 degrees.
Wow.
And in the state of Washington, which is where these burgers were originally sold, they have a temperature regulation. So the federal is 160. The state of Washington set theirs at 170
Okay.
because they wanted to make sure this never happened again.
Yeah.
Especially because they lost the most as far as human life goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then in 2006, baby spinach. There was an E. coli outbreak of baby spinach. Well, how does E. coli end up on a plant?
Right.
That's a big question. That was a big question a lot of people were asking at the time. Is especially as we experienced 3 deaths across the U.S. and Canada off of this baby spinach E. coli outbreak. So contamination ended up being traced to a single processor in California. Remember, for E. coli to die, it has to reach 165 degrees. Well, if you're eating spinach in a salad,
There's no heat.
there's no heat. It's not going to reach 165 degrees. So they can't put it on the consumer in this case. They can't. There's absolutely no way to do so.
Right. How
It's,
did it
oh,
get
you
there in the
didn't
first
cook
place?
your salad.
Right. You didn't wash your salad.
Right.
Well,
It would still need to reach 165 degrees, even
Yeah.
if you wash it. So it would wilt.
Right.
It would still wilt it. So
You wouldn't have a fresh sprung salad. Like
Right.
it wouldn't be like green and crunchy and all that. But how did it get there in the first place?
Okay. So this is where we get into the discussion of runoff. Do you know what runoff is?
Yeah.
Okay. Runoff from wild pig and cattle feces that were near the fields carried the same strain, and there was it was only a mile away from this ranch
Oh wow.
where they found the E. coli tainted spinach. So they have these wild animals that they don't control that are loosing all over, and it's running downhill, and then the water from the irrigation canals are being sprayed, but they have their species in them, which would be beneficial as like a manure type situation, but it's not in this case because it is tainted. It has E. coli. And then cattle feces. Now I don't want to get too far into it, but cattle are not being raised properly to not have E. coli.
Okay.
In the US, we feed our cattle corn. Cattle cannot digest corn without the production of E. coli. So, because cattle are meant to eat grass,
Yeah.
if we fed the cattle grass for a week is all it would take to get, where is it? I have an amount. It lessens the E. coli in their gut. All you have to do is by 70%.
What?
By 70%.
And don't
So
all cows like graze? Like don't like most farmers like let their cows graze and
except for industrial farms. Industrial farms, they are literally in this little like
cage.
They're not like in a cage, but it's like
It's
they're
a stall.
chained. A stall, exactly, a stall, and they're next to each other. So if one cow has E. coli, the next cow has E. coli, and the next one also has it. They're eating from this trough of corn meal, and their gut, even though it goes through 7 different types of channels of digestion because they have 7 stomachs, which is why they're
I've heard this so many times. Okay, now is it 2 stomachs, 4 stomachs, or 7 stomachs? Because I've heard that cows have like 4 stomachs, but like 2 separate chambers.
Oh, maybe it is 4. I could look it up, but my phone's locked. No. Anyway, they have the way that their body is set up is that it is supposed to produce the like cleanest feces, but it doesn't. It doesn't because we're not feeding them correctly. We're literally giving them something that's causing them to create this E. coli strain that is not healthy. So,
Okay, can I clear this up for me and
Sure.
everybody else? Cows do not have 4 separate stomachs. Instead, we have one single stomach split into 4 distinct compartments.
Okay.
So a cow has 4 stomachs, but it's like it's one stomach made into 4 sections.
Right, it, like, goes from one section to the next, and it's just broken down further and further each time.
Yes.
Okay, so if you think about that as, like, being filtered each time it goes through,
Right.
right? So, anyway, the way that this would work, if they were doing this properly, if they still wanted to do it cheaply and feed them the corn, is if they tested their feces on a regular basis to find if they had E. coli, and yes, they have it, then take them off of the cornmeal for a week,
Yeah.
they would reduce the amount of E. coli in their systems by 70%.
Yeah.
They could clean them up, but they don't.
And grass is so cheap.
They feed them antibiotics instead.
Yeah. Grass is
Whatever.
free off. I mean,
Which,
I mean, you got to replant it if you destroy it, but grass
yeah,
is free.
yeah. Well, what's best about that is if you only feed them grass, which I did look into, because there are grass-fed ranches out there
They
that
like grass.
just feed them grass and you let them graze. If you just feed them grass, they eat the grass, they digest the grass, they poop the grass, and then it grows more grass.
Yeah. Oh
So
my
it
God.
takes care of
Can you
itself.
imagine a world that actually just
And then we could eat it and like be okay. Like
Yeah.
we wouldn't have to worry as much. But anyway, cheap industrial farming, what have you, practices.
I feel
So
like that's more expensive, industrial farming, than just to like let the cycle run.
well, it's like they're chasing their tails all the time too. They're like, oh no, we got them sick. Let's get them antibiotics. Oh no, those antibiotics are causing problems in humans. We got to switch antibiotics. Yes, it's more expensive in the long run.
Yeah. It's just nuts.
Okay. Anyway, so what changes did we make to kind of react? Because that's all we do. We're not proactive, we're reactive. So the FDA strictly regulates how runoff affects fresh produce now under the FSMA produce safety rule created after this 2006 outbreak. So in response to this outbreak, they created regulations about runoff. And pre-harvest farms must assess the risk from adjacent land, including runoff from uphill cattle grazing or wildlife. So farmers have to decide, is this going to be somewhere safe for me to grow this? They have to check every possible runoff that could come into that land before they purchase it and use it for food.
Right.
Okay, farms must test any surface water used for irrigation. Now, they didn't do this before, now they do. That means ponds, creeks, anything that's vulnerable to runoff.
Yeah.
Okay. And they can also use buffer zones to
What's a buffer zone?
It's like bushes, other fields that happen to be in the area, stuff like that. So what they do is they use that to slow down and filter natural runoff before it touches high risk leafy greens. So like a buffer zone is it's like more land or more plant life that's gonna the water before it gets to you. Sort of filter it.
Yeah.
Right, in a natural way.
Right.
All right. Also the EPA under the Clean Water Act, runoff is actually treated with a broad exemption. So they don't actually the EPA doesn't really care about runoff.
Oh.
Because federal law because the federal law relies heavily on voluntary incentives for crop runoff, individual states enforce it, and they have their own mandatory programs. So it's not really federally followed, basically.
Right.
What's going on with runoff. They don't care so much. The EPA does. They have the Clean Water Act doesn't touch this sort of issue. All right. In 2006 okay. So first I have to say, remember how we always say trust no one and question everything and do your own research. So I had watched a documentary called what was that one? I think it was Food Inc. No, it was not. It was the one on Netflix called Poisoned. It was a Poisoned documentary on Netflix. I watched a handful before doing this. But on that one, they talked about a 2006 salmonella peanut butter outbreak. Okay, but they mentioned Peanut Corporation of America. Well, wrong. The 2006-2007 salmonella peanut butter outbreak actually was Conagra. There were no deaths, and it was due to a leaky roof.
What?
There was a leaky roof, and the water was coming through, and it was causing salmonella to be mixed in with the peanut butter. Nothing actually happened to those people. It was an accident. They they fixed it, and that's great. But in 2008, 2009, the Peanut Corporation of America, that outbreak actually caused 9 deaths. And that's when they were selling tainted peanut products, different peanut products, not just peanut butter.
Right.
And that was due to mouse droppings.
Ugh.
And they were forging their tests to say there was nothing wrong with the peanut butter or peanut product, and they kept shipping it everywhere, and it was getting mixed in with everything.
Wow. That's a lot of cross-contamination.
Yep, and when they solved what was really going on, the CEO and his son, who was also part of the company, not just because he was his son, he's not collateral damage in this, he's part of it. They both got 28 years in prison. So I like seeing someone being held accountable. This was also the first time. See, we love history, right? So it's the first time that somebody was actually held accountable for such like basically with food tampering in this instance.
Absolutely. You're messing with people's food, you're messing with people's health and like the well-being of others. That's just messed up.
Yes. All right. And then in 2010, Iowa farms had a salmonella outbreak, and that involved 550 million eggs that had to be recalled.
550 million eggs.
Yes. Yes, 550 million eggs were recalled, and they sickened 1,500 plus people.
That's insanity.
Yeah, sick with salmonella. Investigators found unsanitary conditions at these Iowa farms, such as rodents, manure piles, and there was salmonella of the same strain found in the chicken feed.
What?
Yes, so they were feeding it directly to the chickens and then feeding the chickens or feeding the eggs to the people.
Yeah. They were directly endangering people.
Yes. But remember how I said in just a year prior, the Peanut Corporation of America was given 28 years in prison. These people were only given 3 months. And they had rodents and manure. And
how does that make sense?
I don't know. I will say it probably has a little bit to do with lobbying, and I am considering doing an entire episode on lobbying, but let's just put it into a little bit of perspective here. There are a lot of people that work for these large farms and large companies that tend to also become parts of the EPA, FDA, senators, and so the people who are making the laws are also the people that work for these companies. So
makes sense.
That's what seems to be happening, and seems to be causing issues here. So the FSMA, which I mentioned earlier, stands for Food Safety and Modernization Act, and that was in January of 2011. It required written preventative safety plans that no longer just reactionary behavior. So finally they say, okay, we need to be proactive. We can't just react to things anymore. This is getting out of hand. Right?
Right.
Which sounds great. Sounds good. That's what we should be doing. And in 2021, when there was a smaller E. coli outbreak, they were able to trace where it came from. Nobody was hurt. I mean, some people got sick, but not very many. And it was only from one organic spinach called Josie's Organic Spinach. It was a small batch. It was traced. They went. They found it. They found where it came from. And it was over.
Yeah.
And that's great because they did what they had planned on doing, which was all these steps.
Yeah.
And that was in 2021. Now, literally now, because I highlighted it and wrote it in green. Now! Now, in 2026, the lettuce. All right, what are we dealing with? First off, for those of you who may not know, it's called Cyclospora. It's a parasite that causes an intestinal illness over a few days or weeks. As of July 29th, there have been a confirmed 18,000 plus cases, with the epicenter being Michigan, which is
not far away.
next door. And Cyclospora is still considered a foodborne illness, even though it is a parasite, because the CDC states that its likelihood of person-to-person transmission is very unlikely.
Okay.
That it comes from food. It comes from being on food.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So right now, the illnesses have been traced to shredded iceberg lettuce sourced from Taylor Farms. Taylor Farms has a voluntary recall from Taco Bell restaurants, which is where they ship to, different groceries, and food suppliers. I will also say that the restaurant that I worked for just 3 weeks ago, I just left it 3 weeks ago, also sources their romaine from Taylor Farms and their shredded lettuce. We stopped buying shredded lettuce and we are returning our romaine, and we bought romaine from a different supplier. We are cutting and washing every leaf, and we're using the romaine in the burgers right now because shredded lettuce isn't safe.
Yeah.
So just there are proactive things that restaurants are doing, and I'm sure the more upscale the restaurant, the more precautions they're taking. But
right,
the restaurant that I worked for it's probably like mid-level as far as income goes. Like, I mean, most people can eat there, and we were being very, very careful. We were even washing our strawberries with a vinegar mixture to make sure there was nothing on them. So, okay. Both New York, though, and California have reported cases that have been traced back to cilantro and parsley.
Wow.
So it's not just lettuce.
Nope. And cilantro and parsley are two big deals in New York for pizza.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and actually it was the cilantro in New York and parsley in California, but the reason being it was on like a Tex-Mex type.
Okay.
It was at a restaurant. They had found it and they reported it, and that was prior to the shredded lettuce.
Wow.
And then the parsley, I think that's like concurrent. It's also happening at the same time. So what do you know so far about what's going on? Remember, the difference between this is ongoing, this is current, this is what's happening, whereas the other things I talked about is like, this happened, what did we do as a result? How do we react?
Right.
How do we react? Okay. So what do we know right now? 36% of there's been a 36% decrease in purchases of leafy greens from supermarkets. So people, even though we go out to eat, and I noticed because I was in the restaurant, people order no lettuce, no tomato, no whatever, because they are still being hyper vigilant for themselves, not trusting everybody else, which is great. That's fine. I applaud it, and I think we should all be hyper vigilant for ourselves and not trust that everyone else is taking care of us, because in reality, you really need to just take care of yourself.
I'm naturally really hyper vigilant.
So that's 36% decrease in purchases of leafy greens from supermarkets. Now, there has been, however, a 56% increase in purchases of leafy greens from farmers markets and single source suppliers, which I love.
Yeah.
I love and applaud, and I think that's the way a lot of things need to go, and I will praise it. I don't know if I'm going to do an episode about bees and honey, but I will tell you that single source honey does not come from a supermarket. I buy all my honey from local bee farmers.
Me too.
We have two I think that live in Findlay area, and one of them I know personally because she also teaches at the school my kids go to. She farms bees.
Then I need to get honey where you get honey.
Okay.
I'm not kidding, because I'm almost out.
I am too. I have this much left. I have this little. It's like this big of a jar, and it's like this much left.
That's a lot of honey compared to what I have. I have like this much
Not when
left.
you eat it every day because you have allergies. So it's not a lot. It's not going to last me very long. So anyway, yes, honey is very important for people who have allergies, but that's not the point. The point is single source suppliers, because when you buy honey, I'm just going to throw this in here now. When you buy honey from a supermarket, it's mixed with a bunch of honey from all over the world. It's
Yeah,
not going to affect your allergies. It's not going to help your allergies.
right.
And there was even a um there was an issue with the supply chain of honey that was coming out of China that was being mixed with rice syrup.
Wow.
So it wasn't even completely honey. It was adulterated honey. And they were sending it to the US, and the US caught on and said, no more honey from China. So what did China do? Oh, if I ship it to India and then have India put their label on it and then I send it to the US. So they did that. They did that. They sent it all over the world, and then other places were sending it here. So it was still getting here.
Yeah.
Um, and so they do test for that in certain facilities that gather honey from everywhere and mix it
Mhm.
together and put it in that bear-shaped bottle on the shelf. But I just buy local honey.
Yeah,
It's
give me a
just
hexagonal jar or a little hexagonal jar with like that cute little tartan topper and then a little stir with it and I'm good to
yeah. Yeah.
go.
Just local honey is the way to go. All right. 2025, I know this is a year ago, but 2025, Taylor Farms actually contributed $1 million to President Trump's super PAC MAGA Inc. So, remember how I mentioned that the reason why some of these things don't get caught is because they have their hands in
The honey jar.
yes, they have their hands in the honey jar. They have their hands in politics. So it's just kind of, you really can't trust these big
Right.
corporations. Food safety in the US is monitored by a piecemeal system of state and federal agencies combined that are responsible for detecting, investigating, and preventing outbreaks of foodborne illnesses. That's how it's supposed to work. And one of my favorite quotes that I saw all over the place from every single lobbyer or politician that was questioned in every documentary about food is, quote, America has the safest food system in the world. I disagree.
I disagree.
I think that it was headed that way at some point.
Mhm.
Um, However, in the current outbreak situation, federal delays and changes in tracking rules weakened the nation's defense before this outbreak happened. Key policy shifts, including delaying FDA food traceability final rule and scaling back the CDC FoodNet surveillance network, caused a 30-month delay, pushing back regulations for rapid supply chain record keeping. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reclassified tracking for Cyclospora and 5 other pathogens as optional instead of mandatory. In the FoodNet surveillance system, due to budget constraints, um, this is why they did that, because they didn't have the people
Right.
to do it due to the budget constraints. So, just the facts, no politics here. Ready? On July 1st, 2025, so a year ago, a year and a month ago now, the federal government quietly scaled back its only active surveillance system for foodborne illnesses. That FoodNet got a hole in it.
Yeah.
All right, for 28 years, FoodNet has been tracking 8 pathogens. Now, because of the scale back, because of the you know the money that's been taken from them, they only track for 2:
Oh my.
Salmonella and E. coli. Why are they tracking for Salmonella and E. coli? Because there were previously giant outbreaks that caused them to make litigation, actual laws defending us against those 2.
Yeah.
But the other
6?
the other 6 don't have specific laws in place to keep us safe. The Trump administration downsized the Department of Health and Human Services by 20,000 employees and suspended a proficiency testing program for milk and other dairy. So be careful with your milk. It hasn't happened yet.
I drink all my milk.
I don't drink cow's milk either. I can't process it. I'm lactose intolerant.
So am I.
Yeah. But I do eat cheese, so be careful.
Yeah.
The Food Net funding cuts meant terminating data collection on 6 pathogens. What are those 6 pathogens? Campylobacter, Cyclospora, Listeria, Shigella,
Mm-hmm.
Vibrio, I'm not sure how to say that one, and Yersinia. 2 of those, both the Campylobacter and the Listeria, which is something I think most of us have heard of. If you've been pregnant, you've heard of Listeria because they warn you not to eat deli meat because it is a high transmitter of Listeria. Those 2 are the top 2 contributing to death by foodborne illness, and we no longer test for or trace those.
That's insane.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it wasn't supposed to be a conspiracy episode. It's not supposed to be a conspiracy episode. It's supposed to be educational, but we care about you and we want you to be hyper vigilant and buy local.
Yeah.
And if you can't buy local, because I know that some places don't have farmers markets,
Right.
there is a website called tailordetector.com where you can currently scan the product you're looking at and it'll tell you if it comes from Taylor Farms. And if it does, don't get it. Get something else
Correct.
because you are your best defense
Mm-hmm.
against the current outbreak. Because it is one that can hopefully be washed away with a good food rinse, not just water. When I say food rinse, I mean like a produce wash that you can buy or make. Best one, personally, people use vinegar and water, which is fine. I don't like it because the vinegar leaves a funky taste on my berries. So I do baking soda and water, and it'll kill things that shouldn't be there, and it will remove pesticides and other things that you don't want on your food.
Right.
So if you can't buy one, you can make one, and Google has recipes.
Right.
But
Absolutely.
please take care of yourselves. Remember tailordetector.com. It will tell you if it is a Taylor Farms product.
Yeah.
Um, that's all I have
Okay.
on that one.
Awesome. I learned a lot. I got angry too.
Yeah, it does make you kind of angry
But
to know what's going on with your food.
yeah.
But
Anyways.
yeah.
Well, that's it for today.
Yes, thank you for listening,
Yeah.
and come back next week for another episode. Next week I will be covering the pesticides, GMOs, and microplastics that are in your food. Yum.
Yum, 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 yum.
Oh, but yes, every Thursday, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And remember, trust no one.
Question everything. And if you want to send us your stories, we'd love to hear them. Like seriously, send us your campfire stories, send us your glitch in the matrix stories, any conspiracy theories you have. We would love to hear them so that we can read them and then post them on the podcast. Our email is suspectionpod@outlook.com. Again, send us your stories at suspectionpod@outlook.com, and we do have an Instagram.
Yes, our Instagram is @suspectionpod. You can also message us on there if your story is, not very long and you want to put it on there. That's great. I love paragraph form though, just like, break it up a little bit so it's not one giant text. But you can also send links for our episodes to your friends. Our links are in the bio. Again, that's Amazon Music, Spotify, and YouTube.
Yes. Awesome. Well, thank you guys so much for listening.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.